we've got to talk about Governor Josh Shapiro because there was an attempt on his life. First off, I do want to say I thank God that he is safe, his family, his children. I simply because I disagree with somebody doesn't mean that I want them to lose their life. I think that's obvious. But of course, you know how the world is today. People like to twist words and bend and twist, So I want to get that. I want to put that on Front Street up front. Okay. I don't endorse any type of violence against political opponents or people or politicians that I disagree with. That's just absolutely ridiculous. I don't need to push violence against any politician. I can just beat you just with simple facts. Okay. Which is also quite interesting because that's where Democrats always run to, violence, because they can't beat us conservatives with basic facts. But anyway, put that aside. Let's hop into this a little bit because I've got some other stuff that I want to talk about to go along with this entire situation. Let's dive in.
And police arresting and charging a man they say set fire to the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro's house, the governor's mansion, while the governor and his family were asleep inside the house.
Todd Pyro is here with all the details. Hey, Todd.
Absolutely horrific. Good morning to all three of you. The governor now thanking officers for waking him up and responding quickly to save him and save his family. Police believe the man scaled an iron security fence, the suspect that is, in the middle of the night to elude police and break into this home in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Moments before it happened, Shapiro, who is Jewish, posted this message on X, wishing everyone a happy Passover. Now, after the incident, he's condemning political acts of violence.
Last night, we experienced an attack not just on our family, but on the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society. And I don't give a if it's coming from one particular side or the other, directed at one particular party or another, or one particular person or another. It is not okay. And it has to stop.
Vice President J.D. Vance responding to the fire, saying, "Thanks be to God that Governor Shapiro and his family were unharmed in this attack. Really disgusting violence, and I hope whoever did it is brought swiftly to justice." Police.
So with that being said, let's dive into a little bit more of this. Actually, before we get into that, here's what Uncle Trump had to say about the entire situation. Check it out.
Have you attributed a motive through the FBI investigation behind the attack on Governor Josh Shapiro over the weekend?
No, I haven't, but the attacker was not a fan of Trump, I understand, just from what I read and from what I've been told. The attacker basically wasn't a fan of anybody. It's probably just a whack job. And certainly a thing like that cannot be allowed to happen.
So I just wanted to play that clip really quickly. But he definitely wasn't a fan of Trump. And I'm going to show you guys a post that he allegedly had put up, which is this, which, you see that there. I think that speaks for itself. This is allegedly the guy that attempted to take Josh Shapiro and his family's life, which is just absolute insanity. Okay. I have a picture. As a matter of fact, here, I'll just put this up. I'm going to blur out the children in this. I don't believe in, posting kids. So I'm going to blur out the kids in this. But this is the guy, allegedly, Cody Balmer. Okay. Allegedly, also, his phone had pinged at 39 Kamala or Antifa / BLM, pro-Palestine rallies. 39. I think that says a lot about who this gentleman probably really is. If you've gone to that many different things, but I think it also might lend to maybe somebody was being paid to attend these places. I don't know. What do you guys think? Talk to me. But allegedly, he lived about 9 minutes away from the governor's mansion. He was unaffiliated, but seemed like a Democrat voter. I mean, obviously, the guy posted F Trump, so didn't seem like he was too big of a fan, at least of Trump. So definitely not a Republican. I will say that. But I also want to dive in and talk about some more about this entire situation, because it's quite interesting that when it happens to a Democrat politician, now they all of a sudden want to come out and denounce any and all types of violence. But just I mean, literally just last week, when Chuck Schumer was asked to basically denounce the violence, this is what he had to say.
Senator, what's your opinion of the violence against Tesla, their products? What are your thoughts on that? Do you denounce the violence against Tesla products and dealerships and cars in the streets?
I can't talk about Tesla, but Elon Musk is a disaster for America, and America knows it. Look at Wisconsin.
Yeah, so basically refusing to denounce violence. See, I feel like this entire mess, people keying Teslas, burning Teslas, firebombing Tesla dealerships, assaulting Tesla drivers. Where's all the Democrat politicians that came out and said, hey, stop the violence? We denounce any and all violence. Show me the videos of all of these Democrat politicians that have done it. Show me. I believe AOC basically did the same thing that Chuck Schumer did. She was asked directly and refused to denounce the violence. Refused. I just find it quite interesting. Once again, I'm happy Josh Shapiro and his family survived. That's not what I'm saying. That, you know, I'm not trying to say that I wish violence upon anybody. But what I am saying is it's interesting that now they want to come out and try to denounce the violence but when it was happening against people that they didn't like, they said absolutely nothing. They said nothing. And I just showed you the clip. He didn't want to say, oh, well, I can't talk about Tesla. What is so difficult about saying, no, we don't agree with any type of violence? What's so difficult about that? Trump did it. And we all know if the shoe were on the other foot and Trump basically did what Chuck Schumer just did right there, Democrats would be screaming at the top of their lungs, oh my goodness, how dare Trump? Oh, it's another January 6th. Oh my goodness. Blah, blah, blah. He didn't want to denounce the violence. They would be screaming at the top of their lungs. Screaming. Not only that, but Democrat politicians have called for violence. Yeah, no joke. They have called for violence. And if you don't believe me, here's a clip.
Go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
So you saw a little bit of that there. And there was more, and I played like the first half of that video in one of yesterday's videos, which is why you didn't really see the first half of that. I mean, if you want to see the first half, here's a...
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
So you get the message. Democrats have been calling for this for quite a long time. So let's all agree that both the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, as we always have, as we have been doing, but now the Democrat Party needs to join us in saying, hey, no more violence. We denounce any and all violence, any and all of it. No more of this nonsense that you saw Chuck Schumer do, because it leads to stuff like what happened to Governor Josh Shapiro. That's what it leads to. Lunatics doing absolutely ridiculous stuff. Because you disagree with somebody, you going to try to set this man's house on fire? How stupid do you have to be to do something like that? How deranged, like straight jacket level stuff. And it doesn't stop there. Check out this, like I'm just going to play this clip. Check this out.
A federal search warrant, unsealed Friday, details a murder plot as part of a plan targeting President Donald Trump. The documents attribute that plot to 17-year-old Waukesha student Nikita Kasap. charged in the shooting deaths of his mother, Tatiana, and stepfather, Donald Mayer, inside their home February 11th. According to prosecutors, the teenager stayed inside the home with their bodies for 12 days.
Victim B body was appeared to have been deceased for some time, was unable to definitively identify who it was.
Police arrested Kassab in Kansas weeks later, finding him with his stepfather's car, gun, and $14,000. The motive for the murders, according to the federal warrant, was to use that money to fund a plan calling for the president's assassination, to, quote, foment a political revolution in the United States and save the white race. According to the records, Kassab shared an affinity for the neo-Nazi group, the Order of Nine Angles. And they also reference a 3-page manifesto quoted as saying, as to why, specifically Trump, I think it's obvious. By getting rid of the president and perhaps the vice president, that is guaranteed to bring some chaos. The records show Kassab on the platforms TikTok and Telegram discussed buying a drone to use in an attack. And investigators say he told a classmate, quote, when they saw 10 consecutive attacks in the news, it would have been him.
Yeah, that's what Democrats not denouncing violence leads to. When you have two political parties and only one of them is denouncing the violence, you have a whole separate side of the country that thinks it's okay. Because Democrats just walk around and act like nothing's going on. Enough is enough. We've had multiple attempts on Trump's life. The president of the United States, a potential plan was being put in place by this young gentleman allegedly. And now we've had an attempt on a governor's life. When does it end? When does it end? Right? How long are Democrats going to sit here and act like none of this is happening? I guarantee you they all come out now and say something. But once again, they had nothing to say when Tesla owners and drivers were being assaulted and punched in the face. They had nothing to say. When Tesla dealerships were being firebombed, they had nothing to say. People's vehicles that they paid their hard-earned money for are being destroyed and keyed and vandalized, and they had absolutely nothing to say. So it's enough. Enough is enough. Denounce the violence. Everybody. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous to me. But I just felt that I had to call that out, man, because it's just, I mean, first off, it's gone way too far, right? Josh Shapiro almost lost his family to this entire situation, which is just absolutely scary, you know, to know you could be in the governor's mansion and somebody could break in and start burning your house down while you're in it. That's scary. That's scary stuff, man. But like I said, it's in my humble opinion, most of the blame falls on the Democrat Party. Most of the blame does fall on the Democrat Party. It just is what it is. And I showed you guys the facts there. But anyway, let me know your thoughts and your opinions on all of this. Like I said, happy to hear Josh Shapiro and his family are safe. Once again, I don't condone any type of violence against political opponents simply because we disagree with them. We can beat you on the simple facts. We don't need to enact any type of violence. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, peace and love. I'm out.